Hey guys, welcome back to Civil War 2.0 video series. This is part 5 of the video series. So if you haven't watched any of the other videos, I'll leave a link up here. A little information thing will pop up, allowing you to go back and watch the other videos if you just decide you want to do that. So today's video is going to be about defensive operations. Primary target audience for this video is people who are concerned with defense, actually taking defensive measures during the Second Civil War. This video is not intended for people who are going to be insurgents or quote-unquote revolutionary forces during the Second Civil War. This is primarily just for people who want to defend themselves, defend their family, and defend their neighbors during the conflict. And the primary reason for making this video is going back to the other videos. We know that outside influencers will use this event to secure their interests inside of the United States. And in order to do that, we know that they will prop up insurgent forces, and they will use those guerrilla forces to essentially do their bidding in order to secure their interests inside the United States, which includes securing natural resources and things of that nature, or just destabilizing the region. So in order to defend against that is the purpose why I'm making this video, because it is incumbent upon us to provide for our own defense against outside actors who wish to do us harm. And so that is the entire reason why I'm making this video. Before we get started, I want to mention that there are different ways that you can support my channel, and you can find out that information in the description box below. I'm selling Ubuntu Touch phones on eBay. They don't have Android on them. They're not Google phones. They don't have Google anything on them. They don't track your information. They don't track your location, spy on you, listen to your phone calls, and sell your information to ad companies. So if you want to take back your privacy and you want to fight the big tech giants, that's a way to do it. You can check out the link in the description box below. All right, so let's get right into it. So the topics that we're going to cover, we're going to do them sequentially in the order that you would want to do this, carry this stuff out. So we're going to talk about defensive positions, and then we're going to talk about denial operations or denial barriers, and then I might mention a few things about some big guns. If we have enough time, I might mention things about big guns that you can still buy, legally owned. Okay, so let's just get into it. Defensive positions. All right. In this conflict, you're going to find yourself in one of two locations. You're either going to find yourself in an urban environment or a natural environment. Obviously, an urban environment includes a place that has a lot of houses or buildings that you can take refuge in or conceal yourself in. A natural environment is obviously it's an area where there's no infrastructure, very few buildings, if any at all, and you have to essentially create a defensive position from the local environment. So we're going to start off by talking about urban environments. What you can do for a defensive position in an urban environment, because we know that that's the majority of the people in the United States are going to find themselves in an urban environment. So in an urban environment, your home is your best friend. It can hide your activity because it's very hard for drones and scouts to see into your house. So you want to take advantage of that. You want to build a bunker inside of your house. Basically what a bunker is, it's just an area inside your house that can withstand small arms fire. So it will protect you against, rifle fires, from small arms. And so the easiest way you can create a bunker is by using sandbags. Now when you stack the sandbags, you got to make sure that you alternate them. So you make a layer, one layer, and then when you stack the second layer, you want to alternate it. You don't want the sandbags to be directly on top of each other. You want to put the next row in the middle of the bottom row. So where the one sandbag covers half of 2 sandbags, if that makes sense. I'll leave an image. I'll try to leave images for you in the video to help explain that. Now, inside the house, in order to engage the enemy outside of the house, you want to knock out a hole in your wall, and that's you want a small hole, and that's called a loop, L-O-O-P. It's commonly referred to as a sniper hole. It's incorrectly referred to as a sniper hole, but that's what most people call it, a sniper hole. And basically what that allows you to do is to see through your house and to fire through your house at an enemy who's outside. And it helps to conceal, to hide your position. And the bunker provides cover. So while you're inside the bunker, you want to be able to shoot outside of the loop or the sniper hole. And so in that manner, you're both hidden and covered. So if they do locate your position and they fire back, you're inside of that bunker. And so it protects you. It's good protection in that situation. And you really want to prevent yourself from sticking the barrel of your rifle out of the loop, because that instantly gives away your position. First of all, they see that muzzle dangling outside of out of the hole, and it gives your position away. Also, when you fire a shot, the muzzle blast from your rifle makes a big bright flash of light, and they can see it. So for those reasons, you don't want to dangle your barrel out of the loop. You want to make sure you're a few feet behind the hole before you take a shot. And you want to make sure that you take well-aimed shots, because you don't want to have to take multiple follow-up shots, because the more noise that you make, the more of an opportunity you give the enemy to locate your position. You want to prevent yourself from doing that. Hey guys, sorry about the interruption to the normal video. I wanted to make sure that I mentioned tunnels when it comes to urban defense. Tunnels are an excellent way for you to store your supplies, for you to escape when you're being overrun, for you to take refuge during aerial bombardment, and for you to hide and protect innocent civilians when you're under attack. So if you decide that you want to create a tunnel and the entrance is going to be inside of a building or inside of your house, you're going to need a few tools in order to break through the foundation of your house to start digging that tunnel. And some of the tools you're going to need is going to be a rotary hammer to get through the concrete. You're going to and to get through the rebar in the concrete, you're going to need at least an angle grinder. It's going to make your life a lot easier if you have those tools. And in order to excavate the dirt, the minimum tools required, you're going to need a shovel, a pickaxe, a digging bar. You're going to need 5-gallon buckets, preferably metal buckets, because the plastic ones, they break, the bottom breaks open. And you're going to need some rope in order to haul the dirt up out of the tunnel. And you'll also need a ladder to go up and down the shaft if it's a deep tunnel. So something to think about, guys. I'll get right back to the original video. So that's defensive position inside of an urban environment, okay? We're going to talk about defensive positions in a natural environment. First thing you want to start off doing is creating what's called a hasty fighting position. Hasty fighting position is basically just a small ditch in the ground. It's about 2.5 feet wide, 6 feet long, and about 1 foot deep. And when you excavate the dirt, you stack it along the side of the fighting position that is facing the enemy. You create this little mound. It's a little hill of dirt, about 3 foot wide, if you can, and about 6 or 12 inches tall. And what that does is it's called a parapet. And what that does is it gives you more protection against enemy attack. If they locate your position and they fire at you, they're going to hit that parapet, and that parapet is going to be like, it's going to be like armor for your fighting position. It's going to help to protect you. So you want to make sure that you construct the parapet in the direction that you expect the enemy to arrive from. And that hasty fighting position, once you have that hasty fighting position developed, once it's dug, and you have enough downtime, you want to quickly turn that hasty fighting position into what's called a foxhole. Now, foxhole can be a 1-person or a 2-person. Basically, it's a hole in the ground. It's about 4 to 5 feet deep, and it's large enough for you to place a few supplies in there and whatnot. And I would strongly recommend that you create a 2-man foxhole, because 2 men, and I'll leave some pictures. I'll try to find some pictures and leave them up here if I can. I don't know about my editing software, if it's going to be able to do that, but anyways, the reason why you want to have a foxhole big enough for 2 people is so that you can take shifts where 1 person is sleeping, the other person's awake. And not only that, if you do get into an engagement, there's more firepower inside of that foxhole to defend the foxhole. There's 2 people defending it instead of 1, so it's more firepower. And not only that, if 1 person gets shot, the foxhole is still being defended by the person that's still alive. However, the downside is that if you do take artillery fire, or if you take an out, then you lose 2 people instead of just 1. So it's something that you have to take into account. Obviously, it's not what's best for one situation. It's not always best for another. So when you are finding locations for your foxholes, you want to make sure that if there are multiple foxholes, that if you have a team of people and you're creating more than 1 foxhole in an area, you want to make sure you have cover fire for the other foxhole, meaning that if you want to be able to see the other foxholes, so that if 1 foxhole is under attack, other foxholes in the area can help that foxhole, can help to defend that foxhole. They can basically come to the aid of that foxhole, the one that's under attack. Okay, and so I'll leave some links in the description box below so that you can see some different dimensions and shapes of foxholes and different things to take into account. Now, when upgrading your foxhole, you're going to want to make sure that you create a roof for it to prevent the rain from filling up the foxhole. It was a big problem in World War I, was that the trenches were getting full of water, and it was getting muddy, and just very bad living conditions inside of the foxholes. And so you want to make sure that, as best as you can, you divert the water away from the foxhole. Now, depending on the type of soil in your area, you may need to construct a retaining wall inside your foxhole to prevent the soil from caving in. And one of the easiest ways that you can do that is by using local materials to create what's called a brushwood hurdle. And you can just Google that online. Just look up brushwood hurdle, and you'll basically be able to see what a brushwood hurdle is and how to use it. Now, hey guys, I just wanted to touch on communications between bunkers and between foxholes really quick, because it's an important topic. I would strongly recommend that you do not use handheld radios when communicating from your bunker or from your foxhole. And the reason for that is because technology exists, and it's very inexpensive, called radio direction finders, or RDFs. Basically what it is once a transmission is received, then a location is generated based on 2 receivers triangulating the position of the transmitter. And nowadays it's very easy to plot the location via GPS very quickly. So basically, with that in mind,
your position would be given away as soon as you transmit from your handheld radio. So you want to prevent your position from being given away. So there are some other communication methods that are more secure, even though they're more old school methods of communication. They're still, for that reason, they're more secure. So things like field phones, which are starting to become harder to find, and they're getting more expensive. Last time I checked, field phones are a good way to communicate between bunkers and between foxholes. Also, just regular flashlights. If you have like a red or a blue lens that you can put on your flashlight, you can send different codes from one foxhole to another or from one bunker to another. It's very hard to pick that kind of stuff up unless you're in the area and you can see the light, and chances are they won't be able to see it. Another method that you can do for improvise communication method is PVC pipe. I would recommend 3-inch PVC pipe dug in a shallow trench and covered from foxhole to foxhole or from bunker to bunker. And you can also use the pipe not just to speak through, but also to send supplies through the pipe. And the way to do that is to set up a conveyor system. And what you would need is a pulley on each side of the pipe, and you would need to string a rope around each pulley so that you can attach the supplies to the line and pull it. So the person on the other side would be able to receive the supplies. And things that you would want to be able to supply each other would be ammunition, food, water, medical supplies, electronics, things like that would be able to easily pass through a 3-inch PVC pipe or a 4-inch PVC pipe. And if you can't get the PVC pipe, another thing that you can just scavenge from the local environment is just a garden hose. Believe it or not, garden hoses, they work very well to communicate through, and most of them are at least 50 feet long or 100 feet long. So you can get garden hose connectors, or just connect them with duct tape. Put a little trench in the ground. Drop the garden hose in the trench, cover it up from position to position, and you've got a good way to communicate between positions, and is not going to get intercepted because it's not electronic. And with the garden hoses, you can also transport water from location to location. You just need enough water pressure to do it. So just wanted to make sure I added that to the video. Now back to the original video. Thanks.
Sorry, I'm focusing on driving. Somebody just tried to cut me off. Now, once you've got your defensive position established and built, the next thing you want to focus on very shortly thereafter is constructing some denial barriers or denial obstacles, really. And what they are is they're obstacles that you can build surrounding your defensive position, which basically make it very hard for people on foot or people in a vehicle from maneuvering inside your area or coming into your area. And so we're going to cover a few things that you can do, to construct denial barriers. One, just rocks, just plain old rocks. Rocks that are the size of like a soccer ball or even really a softball, just spread out everywhere, makes it really hard for people to walk around without spraining their ankle. And they can't, if you densely cover an area with rocks, it's less likely to be noticed by aerial reconnaissance because they're just rocks. It's almost like, they belong in that area. And so it's not something that'll like sound alarms, So rocks are a very low-key way to create a denial barrier. And if you get big enough rocks, they'll not only be a denial barrier for human traffic, for foot traffic, but also for vehicles, depending on the type of vehicle. Another common denial barrier is just barbed wire. It was extensively used in the First World War. And if you're going to use barbed wire, you want to make sure that you hide it in thickets, in tall grass, or underneath the trees so that it's not seen from aerial reconnaissance. And when you tie it between posts, when you tie down the barbed wire, you want to make sure that it's loose, because loose barbed wire is much more difficult to snip and to cut than tight barbed wire. And not only that, when the barbed wire is loose, it withstands explosions much better than tight barbed wire. So if an explosion occurs next to the barbed wire, it's less likely to snap the barbed wire because the barbed wire is loose. It's got some give in it. Another option are just steel spikes from rebar. You basically take rebar, you cut out, you make these foot-long spikes out of the rebar, you sharpen the tip, push them in the ground, and that's one hell of a passive defense against air assault forces. So people who, drop out of airplanes, they parachute out of airplanes, well, when they hit the ground really hard. And if there's a bunch of spikes covering your area, then they're going to get really hurt when they land on the ground. We're going to pick up mommy right now, buddy. So it's a very cheap and affordable way. One of the ways you can get those is by taking the, if you don't buy the rebar now, you can take those parking blocks out of the parking lot. Many times there's rebar spikes there. You can go try to pull those rebar spikes out of the ground if you can. Knock them back and forth, get them loose with your hammer, and then pull them out. And then you can sharpen the tips, put them in the ground all over the place. And another thing is those parking blocks, they're really good to use for bollards. So basically you're going to need an auger to dig a hole, and you take those parking blocks, you put them upright in the hole. You want to make sure that they're at least 2.5 feet down. The hole's about 2.5 feet down, and that prevents vehicles from coming into your area. You just put a bunch of them about 3 feet apart, and it will prevent light vehicles from coming into your area. You also want to conceal those as best you can. There's another thing called dragon's teeth. They were used extensively in World War II by the Germans. Whether or not they were effective, I can't really think of any times, but basically it's just a concrete pyramid that's about 2 feet tall, and they're densely placed in a line to prevent tanks from crossing that line. Another anti-vehicle method you can use, basically just trenches and berms that stretch for miles. The Israelis used trenches very successfully in the Yom Kippur War, and they stopped, I think it was over 1,000 Syrian tanks during that conflict. Some of the big guns that you can still legally purchase to stop armored vehicles, large armored vehicles, are Civil War era cannons. The Civil War era cannons are about they start off at about $3,000 and they go up to about $12,000. But if you make your own ammunition for those Civil War cannons, you can make some pretty serious armor penetrating rounds with that, and use them. I mean, you pretty much only got nowadays with one of those cannons, you pretty much only got one shot. It's a one-shot opportunity, but nevertheless, it's one shot that you wouldn't have with a normal rifle. So, just some things to think about, guys. There's in this type of information is very, very basic, very general, but it's still very useful. This topic, this subject is a very broad subject. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and leave some links to the military field manuals, the Army field manuals that I got this information from. You can go and you can download those field manuals yourself. They're free, they're online, and you can read them. You can get more information than what I presented to you today. If I have a book called Immediate Combat Fortifications that goes into this topic in more depth, and most of the information that's in that book is drawn from the military field manuals that I'm leaving in the description box below. So guys, like I said, if you like these videos, please support my channel by giving it a like, give me a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, share the video with your friends, and most importantly, the reason I made this video is so that you can download it in case it gets deleted. And if the internet gets cut off, you download it, you could spread this video and this vital information to your neighbors to help them construct defensive positions to help defend not only yourself, but your friends, family, and your neighbors against an invasion from outside actors. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening. Help support my channel. Click the links in the description box below. Thanks for watching.